City County Planning Commission, please come to order. Ms. Martin, would you please call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Rich?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Vitale?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Balance? Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Coppinger?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Graham?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Volkert?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Gay?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Warren?
Ma'am.
Commissioner Madison?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Houston?
Yes, ma'am.
Chair Runner?
Yes, ma'am. Everyone's had a chance to review the summary minutes of the March 7th meeting. Are there any corrections to those minutes?
So move.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rich?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Vitale?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Balance?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Coppinger?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Graham?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Volkert? Commissioner Gay?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Warren? Commissioner Madison?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Houston?
Yes, ma'am.
Chair Runner?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Runner, I request that the record reflect the inclusion of the subject regulations and file materials, the qualifications of staff, and ask that you administer the oath to staff witnesses.
Yes. Swear to tell the truth before this commission. I do. Thank you. You have the February financial report in the packet, as well as the proposed budget for the fiscal year 2019 and 20. And we have Ms. Mooney here today to answer any questions and give a report.
Everyone. I think everyone should have in their packet the budget memo along with the budget. So we're going to talk a little bit about the fiscal year 20 proposed budget that you have in front of you. So what this budget does is this allows us to submit the budget request to the city and the county. You'll see that the green column on the budget represents the financial projected amounts for this fiscal year, and then the yellow column is what we are proposing for next year's budget. I will say that since this year has not closed out, obviously the yellow column will be tweaked ever so slightly once we get this year's ending cash balance. So we'll take a brief look. Income, our requests are staying the same. We're requesting the same amount from the city and the county last year. Our construction fees were up in 2019, but we're anticipating those to be flat next year, so we're keeping that dollar amount the same. And our MPO income and expenses will be slightly increased due to a couple of studies that we're doing next year in the MPO, or for the MPO. Expenses, the highlights of expenses, CERS, we're receiving another increase from them. It'll be 24.6% of our payroll next year, and we anticipate that's going to have about a $20,000 hit on the budget next year. We've got a 1.9% COLA added into payroll next year, and that number is decided by the Kentucky Department of Local Government. They publish that for us each year. We've got some capital increase expenses. As you guys know, we had some renovations and capital expenses for this year in the budget that we did not use. So we are carrying those dollar amounts over to next year to hopefully do the business building renovations next year. We also have increased our office expense for next year in capital to purchase a few things like filing system, a new phone system, some new office furniture. And you'll notice that our operating reserve balance is very close to what it was last year. The goal there is to keep about 2 months worth of expenses in that account. And our surety account balance, that line is 2% of our surety account. That's kind of it in a nutshell. We did meet with the Budget Committee prior to our meeting tonight, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody has at this point about the budget next year.
On page one, tell me about workers' comp. Is that paid annually? We don't have any expenditures thus far, year to date, but we've got $9,500 projected.
If you look in the green column for projected, we've got 95, like you just said, we've got 9,500 in there. We pay that once a year, and it's toward the end of this fiscal year. I'm wanting to say it's around May or June when we pay that each year. So we haven't had to pay it this year, but it's coming up. Any other questions I can answer for anybody? It's a pretty easy budget this year. It's a lot the same.
We have no other questions? You did have
I
one?
would just like to commend Megan for all her hard work, because I know this is a hard thing to do, and you've done an excellent job, and no one
you.
can pat you on the back more than we can, and we certainly appreciate everything you do. And I'd like to make a motion to approve the budget as presented, and for you to present this to the city and the county on our behalf.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We need a second. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Mooney.
Commissioner Rich,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Vitale,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Balance.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Clark,
Absolutely.
Commissioner Coppinger,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Graham,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Volkert, Commissioner Gay,
Ma'am.
Commissioner Warren,
Ma'am.
Commissioner Madison,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Houston,
Yes, ma'am.
Chair Runner.
Yes, ma'am. And the motion carried. Next, we have the preliminary subdivision approvals that was in the packet. Any questions on those, commissioners? None. Move down to letters of credit and performance bonds. We have 3 items. Questions? No questions. I'd ask for a motion. Thank you. Need a second?
Second.
Thank you, ma'am.
Commissioner Rich,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Vitale,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Balance,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Coppinger,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Graham,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Volkert, Commissioner Gay,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Warren, Commissioner Madison,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Houston,
Yes, ma'am.
Chair Runner.
Yes, ma'am. And we do not have any unfinished business, so we'll move right into the first item and only item tonight for public hearing, docket number 2019-02DP, Golden Flower LLC has filed an application to amend the general development plan, which are the development plan conditions on a tract of land containing approximately 1.56 acres located at 603 Old Morgantown Road. Property is zoned general business with a general development plan. And we will hear the staff report from Ms. Hurt.
Thank you, Chair Runner. We had a pre-application conference on February 12th for the property you just mentioned, located here on Old Morgantown Road. It's located just across from the intersection with Virginia Drive. And the applicants have filed an application. It's pretty straightforward. They're proposing to amend the general development plan or the development plan conditions. You can see the current zoning of the property is general business. It was rezoned in 2012. And the development plan was amended back in 2014. Tonight, the applicants are requesting to make only one change. I'll highlight that in just a second. But first, I'll just go through the future land use map section on page 2 of the staff report. We've noted that the property is currently designated as mixed-use residential. This category applies to mixed-use areas where, taken a whole, the primary land use is residential and a variety of housing types and densities, balanced by complementary retail, office, institutional, and civic uses. And I'll note that, whoops, let me go back, I'm going the wrong way. So if you look at the existing land use map, you can see that the majority of the area is currently residential, and there are a few commercial and public institutional uses that are kind of located there along Old Morgantown Road. So back on the future land use map, this designation applies to areas in the historic areas of downtown Bowling Green, and also in areas being redeveloped with the primary use as residential where complementary commercial and services are provided in an area. Here, development standards should be tailored to emphasize an urban character and mix and intensity of development appropriate to this unique center of activity. The applicants are proposing one change, and that's noted on page 3 in bold. So there are currently 12 development plan conditions that are applicable to this property. Number 5 outlines prohibited uses for the property, and the applicants would like to remove a meeting place for religious activity to allow that type of use on the property. With that change, the staff does not anticipate any impact on the future land use map, and that would continue to comply with the future land use map if that were to be a permitted use on this property. Under the site characteristics review, I'll jump back to the aerial here. There are no changes proposed to the layout of the site. They're simply just wanting to allow a religious use on the property. And then on page 3, we have the reference from the zoning ordinance, section 312.8, outlines the process to amend an approved development plan and states that an amendment to any development plan condition for an approved development plan shall be approved only if the proposed amendment remains consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan and upon a finding that there have been major changes of an economic, physical, or social nature within the area of the property in question which were not anticipated at the time of the adoption of the general development plan or development plan conditions which are being amended, or that there have developed physical conditions which would not permit development of the property in question in accordance with the general development plan or development plan conditions which are being amended. And so to address this section out of the zoning ordinance, the applicant supplied a short narrative there in the middle of page 4. It states that the current tenant of this property has had an impact on the immediate surrounding community. Through networking efforts, they have been able to gather members of local area churches to provide this specific neighborhood and campus area with food, activities, and a positive role model environment. With the recent closing of the Big Brothers Big Sisters organization, groups and churches in locations like this will need to be supported and encouraged to serve their surrounding community. And then lastly, I'll just go over our future land use, Focus 2030 category review. We identified 5 applicable items. LU 111 and 112 relate to the future land use map. Again, the proposed change would remain consistent with the map. LU 113 deals with compatibility. The Planning Commission should determine if the change to allow a religious use at this location is compatible with the area. And then the proposal may comply with LU 2 and LU 2.5. The Planning Commission should determine if the proposed amendment will protect the character of the community and nearby established neighborhoods. With that, I'll jump to page 1 with our points to consider and wrap up with those. Again, the proposed amendment remains consistent with the future land use map. The proposed amendment complies with the applicable criteria addressed in the site characteristics review, and the proposed amendment complies with the majority of the review criteria for site design. Compatibility of the proposed change should be determined by the Planning Commission. And I think that's it. I'll keep it short and sweet, but if there's any specific questions about anything else in the staff report, I'll be happy to answer that.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Ms. Hurt? No questions, then we'll hear from the applicant. Do you have anything that you would like to add? If you'd state your name and address for us.
Yeah, my name is Richard Feldman, and I'm a member of Golden Flower LLC.
Swear to tell the truth before this commission.
I do.
Thank you, sir.
I think for me, this thing is somewhat personal. I think that this ministry over there has been doing a heck of a job with the local people, local kids. That used to be a restaurant on one side, and the other side, well, in the middle there was a bookkeeping service and a store. Now, we left, whenever they moved in, we left the kitchen and so forth in the building. That being said, they have had several events over there during the summer in particular where they have a lot of, and I know this, it really surprised me because there were so many small kids and so forth over there. And that area, that area of Morgantown Road has got kids and so forth and adults that needs to be ministered to, in my opinion. I think it's good that they just bring them together. And I don't want to interchange the word church and ministry, but I think it's just a good thing what they're doing over there in that area. I don't think I can say anything other than something good whenever those people are helping so many of the kids over there that I think otherwise, like we all know, could be getting in trouble, because God knows we got enough problems in this town already. And anything that we can do to get these kids off the street and talk to them, and anything to get them interested in something different than out there that could get themselves in trouble, whether it be drugs or the cell phones and all this kind of stuff, anything to keep them busy. And I really believe in that. I really do. I have Miss Finley here, Rita Finley, and she is the treasurer of the ministry over there. She's got a lot of responsibility. And Rita, can you talk a little bit about what you think the impact of that ministry has been over there?
If you'd state your name and address for us, ma'am,
Rita Finley, 1428 Quebec Way.
and you swear to tell the truth?
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
We have really enjoyed being able to be in that area, and we have had something called Splash Fun, and it's where we invite the kids to come and just have a good time. We try to have not rides, but just bouncy houses and things like that for them to play on. We give them food, free food. We for Halloween, we had a trunk or treat, and there were over 300 children and families that were there. We had to turn some away. We had so many people and not enough candy for everyone. But it's an opportunity for us to just share who we are, what we believe in, and hopefully help that community to be a better community for our city.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioners, any questions for Ms.? Nothing.
Is most of the traffic foot traffic from the neighborhood and not really driving and everything? So there's no parking problems or anything?
Right now, there's no parking problems at all.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Do we have any opposition to this request? Yes, sir. You have a question? I'm sorry.
One of you,
Yes.
can you tell us a little bit about Golden Flower and what it is? And is it a 501c3 organization? Or how many members you got?
There's only, Golden Flower is an LLC, and I'm the only member. It's an alternative to a corporation. Golden Flower owns several properties here in the local area. And I got to tell you this particular thing is not something I look at it as a profit item. I do a lot of things, I guess, for the profit motive because it takes a lot of it to keep it going. But as a matter of fact, I've talked to Rita about lowering their rents over there. I just like to see something like that in this community. And I'd like to see that in every community around Bowling Green. But if you go over, particularly in the summertime, and I've done this, and that is I've got a few other houses in that area over there, but that's the only commercial property I've got. And you see these kids up and down the street and this and that, and I did the same thing when I was a kid, and I guess everybody here did. We rode bicycles around and all that. But you know, when we were kids, we didn't have this situation like they have now. We had, you know, it was just totally different. And as everybody is well aware of, you know, you have one parent families, or you've got families over there in every neighborhood, but you know, in that neighborhood, I notice there's kids that kind of need some guidance. I don't think anybody does enough. I know I don't do enough for any community nowadays. Like I say, I'm very much a product of the 50s and the 60s, and I just, anything that I can do, that I can support or whatever, to get some of these kids away from, to get them, I guess, over to that church, let's say, so that maybe, just maybe a few of them won't meander off in a direction where they can end up on drugs and so forth. Whatever I can do in my part, that's what I want to do. It's just that simple. And so if you look at Golden Flower, it's a for-profit LLC. This thing's a little bit nearer and dearer to my heart than some of this other stuff that I have. The time that I don't have to do things that I wish I could do and the things that I hold near and dear. And there's nobody in this room that came from a more poor background than I have. So I know what it's like to grow up without nothing. But when I was growing up, they didn't have these situations with the drugs and the kids that were just not abandoned, but they just run wild. We didn't have that. Barry and I was talking about some stuff earlier. It's changed so much, and it bothers me. So I just think that if I can do something there to provide them with a place where they're going to be in that neighborhood, and these kids can go there and get a pat on the back that maybe they don't get at home, where they can eat a hot dog and have somebody talk to them. And there's a lot of, if you guys have been by there, there's a lot of people over here that help this community. It's not just Rita. How many people do you have? Rita?
In the group?
Yeah.
We have about 30. We're just a very small
Yeah.
group, but we have 30 who are growing, and we just enjoy being able to pull the neighborhood in anytime that we can.
It amazed me because they also pull in some of the kids from Western, which surprised me, and they get these kids involved, and I think it's a guiding principle.
So is
I
it a
think-
church organization that you lease to? Who exactly runs this? You don't run it, I take
Only
it.
on the property.
Okay.
That is a church. I mean, it's a ministry. Is it called a ministry?
Freedom Ministry.
Freedom Ministry is what it is, yeah. I don't have any, as far as, I guess I own the building and the ground under it, but they do all the hard work. There's no doubt about that. They do a lot of work over there. And I've been over myself at some of those events. It's just amazing how, I was surprised myself, how many people show up over there. And like I say, anything we can do, that I can do, anything that I can help bolster, help for some of these kids and so forth around the neighborhood, I want to be involved in, you know.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
welcome.
Any other questions for the applicant? Do we have opposition? Do we have anyone in the audience who has questions? No opposition, no questions? Commissioners, anything else before I call for a motion? Nothing else, then I'll ask for a motion, please.
Make the motion to approve the proposed general development plan amendment docket number 2019-2DP. Based upon the testimony and documents presented in this public hearing, the proposed general development plan amendment is consistent with the adopted Focus 2030 comprehensive plan as demonstrated by its compliance with the objectives and actions items presented in the staff report. Further, I also find that there have been major changes of economic, physical, or social nature within the area of the property in question, and I request the findings of fact and recommendation include a summary of evidence and testimony presented by the witnesses at this public hearing.
Thank you, sir. We need a second. Thank you.
Commissioner Rich?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Vitale?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Balance? Ma'am. Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Coppinger?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Graham?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Volkert? Commissioner Gay?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Warren?
Ma'am.
Commissioner Madison?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Houston?
Yes, ma'am.
Chair Runner?
Yes, ma'am, the motion carried. Our recommendation will be for approval. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank all of you. I think this is a good thing. It's a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
This lady needs love.
Yeah.
We'll see you next month.
See,
Doing next month.
Well, you're kind of making a habit of coming to the plan
Well-
commission.
yes,
We enjoy seeing
that's,
you.
yeah.
Yeah, some of the things this is totally different, from some of the things I've been in front of you guys for. It's totally different. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Rita, thank you for coming.
Do we have any new business? No new business, then we will, no problems with anyone, questions? We will adjourn the meeting and then stick around for the training, okay? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you all.